Thank you very much. I think we should take some questions from the audience, and I've been given very firm instructions, and I'm not very good at obeying instructions, so I'll try and obey them. I'd really like to take, how many people are there with microphones? 2. So I'll take 2 sets of 2 questions, and then I'll come round to you. So over there, right there, and right down here. And then you're going to go to the chap just behind and the lady in front. Okay? So, okay, yeah.
Hi, can I just ask you...
we'll take 4 questions.
Going back to what we've done wrong, what we can do to get out of the mess, can I just ask you about installing democracy, as you call it? Because I don't think it's what we see as democracy, I don't think they want. There's a difference between democracy and tribalism. I'll give you for an instance, when I was in Masakala in 2006 in the ANP police station, and one of the chief of police, lieutenant, was shot in an illegal VCP. His boys, the guys under him, then became Taliban.
VCP is a checkpoint, by the way.
Sorry.
It's something in the road, a barrier in the road. Yeah.
Because they need direct leadership. They don't see democracy as we see it. In fact, I don't think they recognise it at all. And if they had their way, this is something they wouldn't want. So I think that's the problem in its genesis, that we don't understand their mindset. And you, I mean, you're not going to make the bloody thing work, excuse me, you're not going to make the thing work, you know, if we go down that route. So how what you know, that's the, before you can, you know, build this infrastructure and this central government, make it work, get rid of the corruption and so on, you know, you've got to understand that this isn't going to work. So how are you going to address that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen.
I hope this works. I'm very interested and appreciated what was said. Thank you very much. My concern is perhaps that we haven't touched upon the era before the Russians were thrown out of Afghanistan, where there was a communist or socialist, or whatever you like to call it, government, which I think gave women a considerable amount of democratic rights, and seemed to me to be pretty well acceptable to the West, that it would be a marvellous Afghanistan if only it was left alone. But for some reason we thought we'd throw out the influence from Russia at the time because of the Cold War, and since then we've never managed to put things right. Now, can somebody say something about that? And are there any nuggets in that era which could be found and used today to replace the rubbish that's already there?
Okay. If you just hand it back.
Yes, I was the, yes, okay. I would like to hear a bit more about this mentoring program. I mean, you, or 2 of you, have expressed enthusiasm for the Obama can-do, whatever, approach. But I'm very unconvinced that this isn't just another version of employing our own nationals and supporting our own economy. And is it remotely possible that these so-called mentors are going to have any real affinity with the way that the Afghans themselves see governance in their society? Or, I mean, I just can't picture that there will be that number of Americans who even would remotely have those skills in the necessary areas. And, you know, then what do we have? We have a situation where somebody is mentoring somebody to become a good in governance, I don't know what, administering water supply projects or something, and whose authority is going to run? You know, where this kind of program has been advanced in other contexts that I know of, you know, you're going to have a clash of authority, possibly, between the mentor and the mentee. And where do we go then? Because actually, ultimately, it does have to be Afghans who run their own society in whatever way they want to run it. And I'm sure we wouldn't think of it as very democratic, but that's what will have to happen. So I would like to know why, given those caveats, you're actually positive about this.
Thank you very much. Last question.
Yes, I'm an ex-British Army officer, and I'm currently doing a degree at Cambridge looking at development in Afghanistan. And I want to know, is the British Army a successful or an effective agent of development? Should we be there at all? And what else is holding them back from doing an effective job there?
Thank you very much.
Can I leave my colleagues to put the answer the mentoring point, because I absolutely agree with you, as I probably made clear before. So I'm leave them to you put it much better than I did, actually. I'm on this point about democracy and whether the army is a good deliverer of it, and the communist period. I mean, there are many people who say that defeating the communists was a bad idea. It was certainly a far more liberal place for women during the 1980s than it is now, and even before the communists came in 1979. I mean, we forget very easily that Afghanistan was a relatively prosperous country. It exported more raisins than California. The fruit and the whole of the fruit and nut industry in Afghanistan was famous right across the region, and it wasn't just that. It was fine minerals from the ground. All the lapis lazuli in the world comes from Afghanistan. Leonardo da Vinci, since the 15th century, has got his blues from an Afghan mine. I mean, it's a country that's been connected to the world in extraordinary ways, and was stable for women. I very deliberately put in my book a photograph of male and female students at university during the Russian years to make this point. I think the one way forward on that is Afghan education now. Somebody at this Afghan conference at The Hague yesterday was talking about Bamiyan University. Now, I saw Bamiyan University burnt to the ground. I was with the Hazaras in 2002, who took back their town where the Buddhas had been from the Taliban in October 2001, rather, during the Afghan war. And I saw the rubble of the university, and I thought, you could never get tertiary education going again in this town quickly. Well, that's one of the parts of the country that's relatively successful. By the way, you can travel there very safely if you want to go on holiday in Afghanistan. There's a great Japanese-built hotel in Bamiyan and good walking. And I'm told now a good university, where there are students, male and female together, working on the internet. Now, that way forward has to be, whether you have a democratic structure above it, has to be surely the way forward for Afghanistan. My biggest fear is that the American plan is not, it doesn't remind me of the Russians so much, it reminds me of sort of President Kennedy in Vietnam in 1962. It's lots and lots of American civilians going into to build a country, frankly, in the American way, in order to hand it over to the Afghans, rather than doing it in anything remotely resembling the Afghan way. I mean, they have got some kind of a constitution, they've got something that looks like democracy, but there are some elements in this that may be optimistic. President Obama didn't use the word democracy once in his speech last Friday, unveiling his Afghan plan, and they'll never use the words war on terror again, by the way. Hillary Clinton made clear yesterday talking to journalists. So things have changed a lot, but I worry about the idealism, James's can-do idealists, because ultimately
the quiet Americans.
The quiet American. I mean, it does take you back to Vietnam rather than to Afghanistan. But Afghanistan in the late 1980s, you see, the Russians had 100,000 of their own troops, 300,000 or 400,000 very good local forces. They used landmines in an indiscriminate way, which meant that they could use their troops more effectively. They had a contiguous land border. They could resupply very easily. They could take fuel in and out. They had many, many more fixed-wing airplanes. And by the way, they were still defeated by these ragtag characters with Kalashnikovs. We have far fewer troops than that. And if we're going to fight anything like with the counterinsurgency doctrine, we would need 750,000 soldiers to do it in Afghanistan if you did it by the book. And these 5,000 more, 10,000 more don't make a difference in a country that big.
That's where we are going wrong. If it means resurrecting images and idols in Bamiyan, you will always get defeated.
If it means resurrecting them.
That is the purpose of rebuilding Bamiyan. As historical artifacts, fine, but you are resurrecting.
I'm not in favour of rebuilding the Buddhas in Bamiyan. I am in favour of students on the internet in Bamiyan University.